When I left Roxburgh, I had to drive a long way south before I found a suitable place for lunch. This place was a beauty. The solar panels on the roof of the shower block meant I had hot showers. So I did my washing and had a long hot shower before I headed on further on through the lush farmland of Southland to Gore. I really loved Gore. Wide, clean streets with flower gardens everywhere. These cars were lined up outside Queen's Gardens, which I had a very pleasant time walking around and having a look at the aviaries there as well. Very close to town was the Bannerman Deer Park. They're very fond of their country music down there and had many handprints of famous country singers. I photographed a few of them. I stayed in Gore for several days and then headed south through Winton. That was very pretty main streets with all their gardens. And on to Invercargill. Queen's Park Gardens are surrounding the area close to the information centre. This is the information centre and an interesting little display of a tea party all in knitting. They are very proud of their tuatarium and they're live and quite photogenic. They quite enjoyed the company of people in spite of being mainly nocturnal. Of course, you have to go down to Bluff and photograph the signpost. I had a few days to wait until I could get a booking across to Stewart Island, so I did some exploring along the south coast. Then it was time to board the ferry to go across Fovo Strait to Stewart Island. Ferries are very similar to the Auckland one. And this was my first glimpse of Half Moon Bay on Stewart Island. When my hostess showed me into my room, this tui was right outside the window, and the kakas on the veranda were always begging for food. We weren't supposed to feed them, but who can resist? My hostess ran me back down to catch a ferry across to Ulva Island, which is a bird sanctuary, and there I went for quite a long walk. Climbed up the hill and over the other side to Sydney Cove. Along the bush tracks, the birds were completely unafraid, as there's no predators on the island at all, and I walked right across to the other side to Boulder Beach. The next morning I took a bus trip around the island, and our driver kept us entertained with a very amusing and informative trip around the island. A rich American visitor paid for this vermin-proof fence, and they haven't seen him since. Back to the mainland again, and I spent the night looking out on the island that I'd enjoyed so much. Travelling now along the south coast towards the Catlins. This is an interesting place, the scene of the worst New Zealand shipping disaster. I walked along the beach to see the seals sunbathing. Then as far south as you can go. Catlin's Caravan Park was really crowded, different from when Alec and I were here years ago. Then I went on to the petrified forest. Some dramatic event 170 million years ago toppled these trees, and the ash from volcanoes in the water turned them to stone. It was the silica in the rainwater that did it. This fellow had a sense of humour. I wanted to walk into Cathedral Caves, but they're accessible from the beach only at low tide, so there was quite a queue of cars there waiting for the right time of the tide. We walked through the bush and then along the beach for quite a distance before we came to the actual caves. I had a lay day out at the Toko River mouth, and while there I was admiring the seal when he started to take an unhealthy interest. I finally managed a tour through the Cadbury chocolate factory, which I'd always wanted to do, and just before it gets shifted to Melbourne. This was a display in the window. Now I drive up to the tip of the peninsula where I had hoped to see some albatross, but I was told that they were a fair way off and we might just see them pop their heads up above the grass because they were sitting on eggs and chicks, so I contented myself with a good look around the information centre. There was a great view from the yellow-eyed penguin place, but I was not able to go around because there was a cruise ship in and they had 3 busloads of tourists to show around, so I just had a look at the video and left. I drove on then to Lanark Castle. I had been around there many times, so I just walked around the gardens. I can't grow them that big. There were some English families playing croquet and tiddlywinks, having a lot of fun. Then into the lovely Dunedin railway station for a trip up the Taiare gorge. This used to be a station master's house. It's now a holiday home for public servants. We stopped briefly at Hindon to pay homage to the statue of the collie sheepdog. There are 10 tunnels and countless bridges. The bridges are all lovely old handmade sandstone ones, and going through rocky river country, a real gorge. Here at the end of the line is the Pukaki Station homestead. As we got close to Dunedin again, there was stud farms and sheep farms, and then it was on further on my trip. I enjoyed my stay at the Trotters Gorge dock camp, catching up on showers and washing, and then did a walk into the caves. On to the Moeraki Boulders. Some enterprising business person has set up a gift shop up there and tries to charge you $2 to walk down the cliff. But I drove along to the beach and walked along for nothing. Some interesting patterns here in the cliff face. This piece came down in a recent earthquake, so they've fenced it off to stop people from getting crushed if it happens again. Then it was on to view some of the many dams in the Waitaki hydro scheme. This is Lake Waitaki and the Waitaki Dam. Very nice houses put up for the workers, and now they're all deserted and empty and for sale by Ray White. And just a few k's up the road is the Aviemore Dam. This is what it's holding back. I drove across the top of the dam. And this is the powerhouse. I drove into Lake Ohau. Then at Lake Middleton I enjoyed the view while having some lunch and bottling some fruit that I bought yesterday. Along with many others, I had fun at the high country salmon farm, watching them being fed, and then feeding some myself to watch them diving around. At Lake Pukaki, Mt.Cook was behaving beautifully. The cloud cleared away in the evening, and what a wonderful place for wine o'clock. It got better and better through the evening, and we all positioned ourselves for a great view of it in the morning, only to find that it was completely covered in cloud. This was the morning sun on the other side of the lake. And this girl was all ready for a beautiful shot, which didn't happen. The ice rink was not operating during the summer. You used to be able to photograph the lake from the altar inside the Church of the Good Shepherd, but they've stopped that, so I went around outside and took this shot. Mackenzie is a local hero with his dog. In fact, this area is called Mackenzie Country. I tried to get up onto the Port Hills but was stopped by bushfires. So I carried on through some very dry country and got up to Kaikoura. I wanted to have a look at the earthquake damage there. This tunnel was completely blocked and there were containers full of rocks holding back the hillside here approaching one of the tunnels. This gives you an idea of how the sea floor has been raised up by the earthquake. None of these rocks were ever visible before, and it certainly has ruined the foreshore. The seaside road north was blocked, so I had to head inland in towards Hanmer Springs. There'd been bushfires through here the day before and large landslides. Moeraki Springs was a bit of a surprise. I didn't know anything about that, but it was in a lovely setting. It was a very slow trip, an hour and a half for 80 kilometres because of all the roadworks, and then I stopped at a very nice dock camp at Springs Junction. Big open area, plenty of water, toilets, etc. And I stayed there a couple of nights. Trying to do some washing, and this weka came and knocked over my bucket of water. I stopped at Pelorus Bridge and did the Totara walk. Then I went down to Grassmere to have a look at the salt works there. It was still very dry except for the pockets of crops that are being irrigated. They've preserved the picturesque old bridge over the Waitaki River. The new one's not nearly so pretty.
A point on a headland above Picton is a great place for the Maoris to have a look out for any invading tribes, and they built a pa here. There's also a track leading down to a good swimming and fishing beach. There are signs of the pits that they had dug to store the kumara, dried fish and fern root in. This is the narrowest part of the access, and a much deeper ditch was dug in those days to protect it.
At the Edwin Fox Museum, the aim is to preserve it as it is now, not to restore it. Now back to the North Island. The Inter-Islander got away at about the same time. Now back into Wellington Harbour. I stayed put in Wellington for 3 days. It rained solidly. Then I headed north, had a good look at the Waipanga Falls. Stayed a night in Tauranga, went up to Paiare and had a look at the Ohau Falls again. They were performing beautifully because of all the rain. Then a last weekend at the Batch.